Veritas. SCP Files. Episode 22. Phantom. Incident Report 1057-1. First known incident report involving SCP-1057, colloquially known as the Absence of Shark. Object Class: Safe. Risk Assessment Level: Low. Reported by Celine Porter, Civilian. Report made May 19, 2003. Report given 10 years after incident occurred. I love New Zealand. The quiet fields of grazing sheep surrounded by thick forests of ancient trees protecting numerous creatures you'll never find anywhere else. The endless blue stretches of the Tasman Sea, dotted by islands like Kapiti that protect all the rare birds that find the mainland a little too hostile, what with all the introduced species. There's so much greenery, so much beauty. I love New Zealand. But I hate sharks. The silent and deadly predators that make that blue water more of a hazard than a place to paddle and relax. It's not that I can't appreciate them. They're efficient and effective hunters. Evolution designed them well right off the bat, and then left them alone because of how perfectly monstrous they already were. I just hate them. They're terrifying. Sure, everyone loves to push up their glasses and snort, but sharks only cause a few deaths a year, and we kill far more of them than they do us. Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's a fact. But you all have never lived through a shark attack, have you? At least, I think it was a shark. It had to be a shark, right? What else swims in the ocean and tears people apart like that? It appeared from nothing. It was nothing. And yet my father... You all can't tell me how few people sharks kill each year. You haven't lost anyone in the manner that I have. My father, Bristol, he loved New Zealand too. As a boy, he grew up in Hudson, Massachusetts, never guessing he'd one day be a Kiwi. His parents were world travelers for the first half of their lives. But of course, as soon as he was born, they settled down in Hudson and never went anywhere again. It's not that Massachusetts is a bad place to live or anything. It's just that his parents had so many mementos from all over the world. Paintings and pottery and exotic furniture. He grew up so aware of the world out there, and yet never able to actually visit it. He didn't want that for his daughter. He wanted us both to travel, to see the world, to live somewhere different. Somewhere we could connect with nature. Ironic. In the end, I suppose we connected with nature a little too much. Most properties in New Zealand are waterfront. They aren't cheap by any means, but they're absolutely worth it. We managed to snag a beachfront house in the town of Paraparaumu, about an hour outside Wellington in the North Island, and it was perfect. We had a little stretch of private beach right along the Tasman Sea, peaceful and idyllic, the perfect place for little me to build sandcastles and run around. The ocean was good for swimming, but I was always wary to never go too deep, for shark sightings of great whites and tigers were not uncommon. Up close to the beach, though, we felt as safe as we could be. And so we settled into life as Kiwis. There's this tough as nails, get it done yourself attitude to the people down there. We're all so far removed from the rest of the world that if you want something done, you just learn to do it yourself. Is your roof leaking? Grab a can of caulk and go crawl around until you find the right place to seal. Is your driveway flooding? Grab a shovel and go dig yourself a well or a drainage ditch. Kiwis were never afraid to roll up their sleeves and get to work. I think that mentality is what drew my father to fishing. It always seemed like a great compliment to the DIY mindset. Forget the stores, fish for your own dinner. He was never any good at it, though. The whole of the Tasman Sea at our doorstep, and he could never catch a single fish. Not that he worked particularly hard at it, mind you. It was more of a pleasant idea than anything else. He didn't even use a rod. He had this length of fishing line with sporadic hooks that weren't very enticing, all attached to a buoy. Dad and I had this weekend ritual. We would take our little kayak, row out a good distance, and drop the line overboard. The buoy would mark its place, so we'd row back to shore and come back out a few hours later. Like I said, it was lazy fishing. More an excuse to spend some time together. And we barely ever caught anything beyond the occasional tiny fish. Until the monster. I was just 8 years old. It was a bright and hot January Saturday, just like any other in the dead of summer. A bit sticky, a bit uncomfortable. We were dipping our hands overboard into the sea as we rowed back out towards our buoy, rubbing the salt water over our arms and faces to cool us off. We'd left the line there a good 2 hours, and were headed back to check on it, expecting nothing, but enjoying the small bobbing waves and the pretty view of Kapiti Island on the horizon. Nothing seemed amiss at all as we pulled up alongside the buoy. But when Dad started to pull it, his look of low expectations suddenly gave way to one of sheer excitement and he informed me that we'd actually caught something big. There was a weight to the pull, and he said that as he tugged, something tugged back. "We got one!" I remember yelling excitedly. And I leaned out of the kayak, peering out across the water to try and see the outline of whatever we had caught. It wasn't fighting Dad much, but I could tell it was heavy, and dragging it up to the surface was quite an exhausting ordeal. He was straining against the line, and sweat started to bead on his face and arms. I was leaning so far out that I'm surprised I didn't just tip us both out into the water then and there. If I had, I'm certain there wouldn't be anyone left to tell a tale at all. But thankfully, Dad's weight was more than enough to keep us steady. He leaned back, counteracting me, and continued to haul. What popped up at the end of the line was nothing at all. I can't stress it enough, nor can I fully describe it. There was nothing there. The fishing hook floated in midair, embedded deep into empty space. And that empty space was angry. It displaced the water around it, the sea bending away as though pressed up against the skin of a shark that simply didn't exist. When the light hit the absence of shark just right though, refracting through the empty space where the shark wasn't, the faintest sheen and ripple danced to form the outline of something that looked faintly like a tiger shark. The void began to thrash. Nothing hit the side of our kayak, and the boat rocked dangerously. Dad and I clung to the sides, trying our best to keep our hands inside the boat. But there wasn't much to hold on to. He let go of the line, but with so much of it coiled around the bottom of the kayak, the lack of shark was anchored to us. I remember Dad's face as he clung to that kayak. I remember his eyes, the vivid expression of panic and sheer confusion as that nothingness slammed into our kayak again, and we lurched to the side. I remember the fishing line raking across his legs as it rolled across the bottom of the boat. I remember his hands slipping. He knew that he was going in. As the final thwack of the absent shark tipped us dangerously, and I leaned my weight over to try and keep the kayak from completely upending, my father slid into the water. The last thing I heard from him was one single, clear word as he fell.
Paddle!
And then he was gone. I didn't listen to the screams. I didn't look at the blood spraying as the water frothed in a flurry of hungry tearing. That one word echoed through my mind over and over as I grasped my paddle in both hands and started frantically sweeping through the red-streaked water. I may have been little, but the adrenaline coursing through my veins pushed me to rake the water faster and faster, and the kayak sliced through the sea and towards the beach. It's amazing the things your mind does to cope with the impossible. I've thought back on it over and over through the years, and I really don't think I heard anything from behind me at all. The sounds that my father must have made as that creature, as he... But I didn't hear them. My mind locked instead not on my aching muscles as I sliced through the water, but on the water itself, on that beautiful golden glitter as the sunlight bounces and reflects off those tiny waves on the surface. I appreciated the beauty around me, trying desperately to focus on that instead of what I had just lost. But even as I was far away in my mind, I hadn't paused for a moment. My body was on autopilot as I paddled desperately for the shore. It was just after I passed into the surf zone that I heard a noise from behind me, a swoosh of something heavy gliding through the water. Risking a moment's pause from my mad dash, I looked behind me. About 10 meters back, the water shifted as an enormous, invisible form pushed towards me, gliding quickly, just a shadow in the sea. The knot shark was not satiated. I twisted back and began paddling even faster, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out all other sound. I did not hear the wave until it came crashing down on top of me. My father had been so good about the angle of the kayak, how to keep it pushed in just the right direction so the waves didn't overturn us. I, however, had never learned that trick, and my mind was grasped by panic as I felt the waves separate me from my boat and only protection. I was pummeled down into the water, spinning and losing all sense of direction. All I could think about was how close that angry, invisible maw must be, and I kicked my feet, praying I was headed in the right direction. My head breached the surface of the water, and I barely had time for a single ragged breath. I was not oriented, but I knew I had mere moments. But someone must have been looking out for me. Perhaps the spirit of my father, or maybe just good old-fashioned luck. For the kayak had not been tossed away. It was right there. To this day, I have no idea how I managed to pull the boat between me and that thing before it struck. There was a heavy, muffled thud as the enormous nothingness plowed into the now empty boat. The impact and force sent us both spinning and rocketing backwards, the creature towards the opened water, and me, thankfully, towards the shore. My feet found sand, and I was off without a moment's thought, abandoning the kayak that had been my father's undoing and my salvation. Even now, 10 years later, I can't help but love the water. I can't go near it, of course. I've never been swimming or on a boat again since. But it's just so beautiful, the way it sparkles in the light. I've been lost in that sparkle for hours before. I'm not sure where I go when I see it. But it's better than reliving those memories. I can't bring myself to leave New Zealand either. There's just so much here to love. And that thing in the water, that nothingness where a shark should have been, it can't have been natural. It's not representative of what else is out there. I've had so many specialists tell me that the lack of shark that I saw was just the result of trauma. That it was my mind trying to cope with my father's death. But I know what I saw. Or, I suppose, what I didn't see. I know that there was more to it than a simple shark attack. But nobody ever listened to me. Can you blame me for seeking out the Foundation? I don't know if you'll accept my report, 10 years late. But consider it my official application, I suppose. It took quite a lot of digging through paranormal websites to find you, so thanks for taking my report seriously. I'm not sure what I can offer you in terms of help, really, but any position you have, I will take. I owe it to him. I owe it to my father. The database reports that Celine was given minor Class B amnestics and released back into civilian life. Evidently, she was found to not possess any skills interesting or necessary to our Foundation branch located in New Zealand. There have been 2 follow-ups since then that suggest that she continues to seek out advice on paranormal websites and discussion boards, and that her story continues to gather little to no attention. A shame that we could not help her the way that she deserves. I'm a bit surprised she was turned away. I suppose New Zealand does not have all that many anomalies, or much need for additional personnel. The main reason I find this SCP of particular interest isn't related to her story whatsoever. Celine's story appears to be the first of its kind, the first time anyone encountered 1057. It cropped up several times in similar situations over the course of 2 to 3 years, and then was eventually caught in a public swimming pool after killing 2 swimmers and severely wounding a lifeguard. In the ensuing panic and rush to escape, 5 more people were killed. A handwritten note was found attached to the pool's bulletin board, reading, "Panic means that the idea of a shark can be more dangerous than an actual shark. It can even be more dangerous than no shark at all." Are we cool yet? That last line rang a bit of a bell. I had to go back and check my recording on the mirror, SCP-1207, and I confirmed a similar phrase spoken by the poor D class involved in testing. I'm not cool yet. A little digging confirmed it. It appears that there is a fringe group of artists known to the SCP Foundation as Are We Cool Yet? It seems that the Chaos Insurgency is not the only group out there messing with these SCPs. I've found many names since I've started looking into these groups. The Serpent's Hand, Dr. Wondertainment, and many, many more. The realization that we are but a small part of the world and culture surrounding the SCPs is terrifying. All the different groups out there seeking to exploit or use or destroy or contain the anomalies. I think I'm part of a good one. I think what we're doing here at the Foundation is right. We're trying to save lives, minimize the effects of the anomalies on the world. I think. But with so many conflicting approaches, how can one know for sure that we're doing the right thing?
Vault Veritas SCP Files is a podcast inspired by the SCP Foundation. Phantom is based on SCP-1057 by Siri Ex Machina and Vogt from the SCP Wiki located at scp-wiki.com/SCP-1057. It is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 unported license. This episode was performed by Justin Gellner as Scott Anderson, and it was written and edited by Leola Angel. We welcome comments. Please rate and review us. Email us at vaultveritas@gmail.com. Join our Discord channel using the link in the episode description. Tweet us at Vault Veritas. Or for additional content, visit our Patreon. Thanks for listening.